Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Off the Cuff with JayBo and Matt. I'm here today with JayBo as always,
What's up, man?
and today we're discussing hip hop.
Yep.
Um, yeah, where you at with hip hop right now?
Man, I'm listening to a little bit of everything, man. I'm listening to a lot of Jeezy.
Okay.
Uh, I just started listening to Kanye West and Jay-Z again at Watch the Throne.
Okay.
I've been listening to that a lot. Boosie, Lil Boosie. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lil Boosie lately.
I've heard the name, but I've never listened to him.
Boosie's bumping, dude. He has a classic album, which I think is a classic album. 2006, man, Badass.
Yeah.
Badass by Lil Boosie. Check that out. It's like dirty South kind of gangster rap, kind of like in the same vein as like Gucci Mane or Jeezy or Master P or 3 6 Mafia.
Oh man.
If you like that type of thing,
By the way, I'm sure a lot of people who are listening got really pissed off that you lumped Master P in there with all of them. I mean, he's a Louisiana boy, but
hey,
uh, but
hey,
he almost destroyed that Southern hip hop scene for everybody.
no, he didn't. Dude, if it wasn't for Master P, there would be no Boosie. There would be no Lil Wayne. Master P was the man in the late '90s. No Limit.
No, I agree. I think my first thing the man my probably like first hip hop album was maybe like that I owned was like Master P's The Last Dawn.
The Last Don.
Yeah, with Make 'Em Say and all that on there.
Last solo album, like his last album when he was, I guess, relevant, I guess, with No Limit in the '90s.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
remember when that album came out, it was supposed to be his quote unquote last album. And like people like that I knew that like listened to him and listened to No Limit, like they ran to the record store to get that album. No, this is Master P's last CD. Da, 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 da. And obviously it isn't, or was it? But that was kind of like the promotional gimmick to that album. I don't think the album as a whole was that good, but he's a
I agree. I agree. Like I remember at the time that was what when they were talking about signing Snoop Dogg and all that to No Limit, but then they
He
had
was
to
Snoop was on No Limit for a few years.
yeah, but he had that same problem where he was taking too much of their money, and so like people were like, hey, I don't know if this is uh cool or not. With you taking all of our goddamn money since we're all about the money, and he's like, man, fuck all y'all, and there
I
goes
didn't
No
know
Limit.
about that.
Like that's what to me was always the downfall of No Limit was that he was taking too much royalties off of their albums,
I
right?
never heard of that.
Like he was the business non-violent version of Suge Knight.
Yeah, Master P was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
and I saw an interview with Snoop Dogg on his reincarnation documentary. Have you seen that?
no, is that the one that deals with him being becoming Snoop Lion?
Yeah, but, yeah, with him like smoking a whole lot of weed. He smoked so much weed he drifted into a new reality. That's what that documentary is about. But anyway, there's a part on there where he talks about the transition from Suge Knight and Death Row to Master P and No Limit. He said
Yeah.
that Master P pretty much bought out what was the remainder of his contract with Death Row from Suge Knight, and pretty much saved his life, man. Moved him to New Orleans, got him a new house, new surroundings, and everything after the whole Tupac and Biggie shooting. And he
Yeah.
said Master P pretty much saved his life, man.
I bet.
Yeah.
I, like I said though, I consider it almost the destruction of Southern hip hop because he was the mecca of Southern hip hop, and then when that whole thing came crashing down, like you think about it for a while, to me anyway, living in the South, like I stopped hearing a lot of like Southern hip hop short of like 3 6 and uh, like I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else.
So you got to be a fan of though. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever heard of UGK, Goody Mob?
No, but see, you're right though. Like it would help if I was like really married to the genre.
Yeah.
But to me, like Southern hip hop didn't take off again until the Houston scene came out. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, popped up, and then ATL popped up really big. I mean, not necessarily in that order, obviously. And then St. Louis
Mm.
uh, showed
Now,
up with
hold on, man.
Lil Jon and all of them.
You stepping outside the South now, St. Louis. Like some people consider St. Louis the South, but a lot of people don't.
I see. To me though, like I consider like St. Louis the top of the South. Like it has some of those like northern hip hop qualities, but I still think of Lil Jon as a Southern artist.
You do? Well, he's from
I do,
Atlanta.
yeah. I mean, I do, yeah. But I mean, I could see why people wouldn't too.
Why people wouldn't see Lil Jon as a Southern artist?
Yeah, maybe
Why?
because St. Louis isn't exactly it. I don't know. Is it above the Mason-Dixon? It's not though, right?
I'm not sure. Where's the Mason-Dixon line start?
I don't know. I was never that guy. Like I was never the person who felt like he had to know because even as a person who grew up around a lot of the South will rise again Southerners, it never behooved me to give a shit.
But Lil Jon's from the South though. He's from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would see him as a Southern artist. I think he has a Southern sound too. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, see, and that's why I grouped him in there with the it. I would have never even considered him as a non-Southern rapper until you said that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So who are you listening to, man? I know earlier we were talking about nerdcore.
Yeah. You know who I really love?
Who?
It popped in my head after we were talking about that, and we'll get back to nerdcore in a second. This is not nerdcore. Astronautilus.
Who is Astronautilus?
He's originally from Florida, but most people associate him with kind of like the Minnesota rap scene. And oh my God, dude, it's like it's for him specifically. It's like I would say it's kind of like hip hop with an element of Southern rock.
Uh-huh.
Like you just have to hear it, man. It's impressive. Like his live shows are out of this world. It's like a rock show. Like this dude is so into his music. He's rapping, but he's like screaming it almost, not like heavy metal screaming, but he's like really belting it out. He's red faced and just really into it. Like especially in like the harder songs. And then like on the softer, it's very like melodic. You just have to see it, man. It's impressive. I think you would really, really like it.
I have to check it out, man. I'll check it out. We met where in Jonesboro at Arkansas State, right? Back in '05?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's been a long time no see, man. I think it's been about 4 years?
Yeah. I think back then I was listening to Fort Minor's The Rising Tide.
Oh yeah, Fort Minor. That's the guy. That was like a spinoff from Linkin Park, right?
Yeah, Mike Shinoda's thing. Those are at San Andreas boys over there. So he did Rising Tide. And that came about because of Jay-Z mainly.
Right.
Because this was like right after they did that album with Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rising Tide. I don't think Jay-Z. I think he might have had something to do with it. I don't want to say he produced it, but I think he had something to do with it. But goddamn, is that a good album? Like, it's not perfect, but it's a good album.
What happened to Fort Minor?
They made that one album, and then like during that time for Linkin Park, both Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington were talking about. They were both talking about doing side projects. I know they were going into, or they had just released Minutes to Midnight, which was very not hip hop, and I think Mike really had a lot of that hip hop in him that he wanted to get out, and so he definitely so he went and did that. Chester was going to do a side project. I think he did it, but I didn't really care for it. I think he's a great vocalist, but I didn't care for his side project.
I didn't know he did a side project. It was like a solo thing that he did.
Yeah, and his it was a much more toned down, just like hard rock. I don't think there was any screaming. It was all very him just singing, which is to me it was a little boring, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man.
but Mike Shinoda, I love him as a rapper, man. Like it's weird because sometimes his hip hop comes a little dumbed down,
Hmm.
but then you listen to some of his tracks, like Out the Back and uh, Red to Black and things like that, where the metaphors and the stories and all of that are in there are just so good. The messages are really interesting. I mean, I've never heard of another rapper that had a track about Japanese internment camps. You know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool, man. You know that he can take it there. You know, you hear a lot of people rapping about a lot of different things now. Uh, like you said, like we mentioned with the nerdcore, you know, people are, like they're putting like their personal lives in the context of video games or whatever they're nerds about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why I don't know that nerdcore will ever like really become. I don't know if there will really be a true like nerdcore breakout artist. Like I would say Mega Ran was the closest with that Jeremy Lin track back when Lin Sanity was a thing and Jeremy Lin was a thing. But like that was the closest that a nerdcore rapper has come. That's not to say that they're bad or anything. The problem with it is that it's so niche.
Hmm.
Like like when you're talking about relating your life to Final Fantasy VII or something, you kind
Right.
of have to have played Final Fantasy VII to get that. Whereas like gangster rap took off because it was all bravado.
Right.
Like you didn't have to run the streets or even having to get into a fight to really feel cocky and really listening to it. But with nerdcore, you really have to have like I couldn't imagine like a soccer mom just really riding down the road jamming out to some Adam Warrock or something just because you know.
I can imagine a soccer mom just riding down to Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
I have seen that. You've never been like on the street, been next to one of those like soccer mom vans, and she's bumping in there.
Uh-uh.
She's doing that white girl dance, really just like into it, you know.
Hey, but you know what though? I drive a soccer mom van. I drive a Chrysler Pacifica, a 2005 Chrysler Pacifica, and I don't care. I bump all my shit.
No,
I bump Master P and everything. So I'm that guy. I'm the soccer mom. I
see,
pull up
but that's awesome though.
five people and I bump whatever I want to bump. I don't care.
See, and a lot of people don't know that. Most of those vans come with really awesome sound systems in them,
Exactly.
and they get up and go.
They
Like,
do.
like, like you could drag race in a minivan and kill a fucking car. And
You,
most people don't know that. They're like, I'm too embarrassed to do that. But you drive one time and you're just like, hit the gas and you just shoot off the line and you're like, yeah, you just got beat by Pacifica, son.
that's right. I smoke anybody. Pull up beside them, Challenger, Mustang, GT, whatever. What's up, bro? Let's go.
You know, especially if you took out like the back seats and didn't have any heavy things in there,
Oh
like
yeah.
it's just raw ass power.
Exactly. Straight horsepower, baby. It's going down. What are you watching on TV, Max? I know like every time I hook up with you, man, like you're always telling me about a lot of things that you're watching, man, a lot of stuff you read. Give me a rundown of what you're into these days.
Oh man, right now in terms of watching stuff, I just finished watching BoJack Horseman. It's
What's
a
that?
Netflix series. Yeah, it's got who's that? Will Arnett. Um, is it Will Arnett?
Is
I
it a
don't know. I don't
comedy?
know. I had to think about it. I was like, I can see his face, but is that his name?
Is it a comedy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a comedy. It's a cartoon. It starts off kind of being more it starts off seeming like it's going to be like a really just a goofy kind of show, but it really skewers most of it. It's pretty dark comedy, and it really skewers like what it's like to have been a has-been sitcom star. And
Oh, yeah.
the lead character is a horse that was on a show called Horsing Around, where the horse and he's bipedal and everything. He's raising two human children and like teaching them, teaching them life lessons.
Who plays the horse?
I think it's Will Arnett, if
Okay,
that is actually
I
his name.
got that sounds funny as crap. Is it? Do they have like a whole season on Netflix right now? Are we?
Yeah,
This,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. It's
okay.
all on there.
I'm gonna check that.
In fact, it's a Netflix original, so it's kind of like Orange is the New Black, where it released the whole season at one time.
Okay. At work, man, a lot of guys I've been working with, we've been talking about this show on Adult Swim called Black Jesus.
Haven't seen it, but I've heard about it.
You should watch Black Jesus, man. It's kind of blasphemous. It's just about like this black dude. He's Jesus, and he's like Central LA, and like him and his friends like get caught up in a lot of ridiculous stuff, man. Charlie Murphy's in it, and John Witherspoon is in it too.
Oh my God, I love Charlie Murphy.
Yeah, John Witherspoon too, man. Shout out to him, man. He's Pops on the Boondocks.
Oh my God,
He
yeah,
played, you know what I'm talking about. He played Craig's dad on Friday.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
John Witherspoon. He's funny on there. He plays a homeless dude. And Black Jesus. What's up too? It's
Wait,
pretty funny,
so
man.
who plays Black Jesus?
This guy named Slink Johnson.
Okay.
He's not really famous per se. It's like John Witherspoon or Charlie Murphy. He's kind of a new face. But the Black Jesus thing started off as a skit on YouTube that Aaron Magruder started. Aaron Magruder is the creator of Boondocks.
Yeah, yeah.
The Black Jesus is a side project, just skits on YouTube that he started.
That's right. This is what Aaron Magruder left to do, right? He left the Boondocks to do Black Jesus, right?
I
He's
don't know.
producing Black Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know if he left the Boondocks to do Black Jesus because Boondocks is still going.
No, yeah, but he didn't have anything to do with the newest season of the Boondocks.
He didn't?
No,
Oh. I
no,
didn't know.
that's what they were talking about. Like when it was first coming out, they were like, Aaron Magruder is not going to have anything to do with it. He's not producing it. He didn't write any of it. But and so a lot of people were like, this is like, I know people. I haven't watched the new season, but I know people, mainly white people, who said I can't watch it because it makes me feel uncomfortable now. And I was like, the other seasons didn't. They were like, well, the thing is, the original voice is gone. So like I felt safe laughing at it because of what it was. We kind of understood what it was doing, parody wise. But now we're afraid to laugh at it because like some big studio has it and they've lost the original intent. And I'm like, I don't know, like I haven't seen it, so I don't know like what that feels like. But I feel like if it's funny, it's funny. And if it's being like just racist to be racist or being ignorant to be ignorant, I think that will come through. And I think maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know. Did you see the season?
Yeah, man, I saw the newest season. It's online at AdultSwim.com. I thought it was funny. It's not as funny as the earlier seasons of classic material. And after
Yeah.
that, it started to kind of go downhill. I mean, it was still funny. I think the intent to parody culture in general is still there. I mean, they've always parodied culture in general, not just black people. It wasn't just black people parodying black people. I think he just happened to be black. The creators happened to be black, and they parodied and there was some language in there because it was coming from a black person's perspective. But I think the show's true to what it's been.
I think the real question is like I don't know if a lot of people had the wherewithal to describe that they didn't know whether they were laughing because they thought the parody was hilarious or they were just laughing at black people. You know what I mean?
I can see that. I can see where that can be kind of confusing. Whereas me, as a black person, and as a black person who kind of talks in my real life the way the characters talk on Boondocks, I felt like I was at home in my living room, chilling.
Right.
When I was hearing the dialogue. I guess because I'm used to like people like that talking around me, But I guess that if you grew up somewhere or you live a kind of lifestyle where people don't necessarily talk like that in your everyday life, I can see where you can be kind of off-put by the dialogue.
Yeah, no, I completely get that too, and and I'm kind of the same way. Like that's how I grew up talking. So to hear them, you just feel so comfortable in it. You're like, oh, okay, okay. I think the challenge for me was like to not talk like that anymore, because like as like a little hoodlum, you can get away with saying that kind of stuff. But as a grown ass white man, I can't just walk around being like, nigga. You know what I mean?
But as a grown man in general, it show kind of does make you reflect on your own self and what in your own culture or whatever, how you socialize. And no, even as a black person, as a black man, I kind of had to look back at myself and go, how I think about things and what I say about things is kind of ridiculous. Maybe I need to think about what I say before I say it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Like, has anybody ever like ego checked you?
What do you mean?
Like 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 somebody called you out and is like, hey, you can't think about things like that. That's not a real way of thinking about things, or you're like too cocky or something like that.
Yeah, I've had some conversations like that on some level or another. It's like, why would you talk like that? You're educated. You don't need to talk like that. You can use your words, to express yourself. Things like that. And I understand where they're coming from. But when you're in a certain conversation with certain people, you have to get on other people's level. You know what I mean? I wouldn't talk to my boss at work the same way I talk to my friends back
Yeah,
in the hood, back in West Memphis. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
I,
the way I talk to him, is it has to be genuine to some degree in one aspect, a professional manner. But when I talk to hanging out with the block, I'm not going in there. Yes, man. Yes, sir. Yes.
yeah,
How are you today? I'm gonna be relaxed. I'm in my natural element, so of course I'm gonna sound different. It doesn't mean I'm any less educated. I'm hanging out. I'm just being a real.
right.
You know what I
You
mean?
cut your audio cut out like little bits in there, so
Uh-huh.
so it almost sounded like you were edited or you were censored somehow, and
Uh-huh.
that to me was hilarious. Um, no,
No,
I call it compartmentalizing.
hold up. I can kind of hear myself coming back
Okay.
from your microphone. I think you like turn your volume down a little bit.
I can hear or sorry, but I call it compartmentalizing, right?
Uh-huh.
So you're compartmentalizing those different aspects of yourself,
Right.
because I'm the same way. Like as an adult, how I talk to one of my friends is it's more or less the same now, but once upon a time it was very different. But also like the sides of my personality I show. Like if I'm at work, I'm still kind of goofy, kind of funny, but
Uh-huh.
I have to tone it down. Like you can't say dark stuff in front of the people you work with, because most a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate that,
Uh-huh.
and you can ruin a relationship by telling the wrong kind of joke to the wrong person.
Exactly. And if you have to explain the joke or apologize for the joke, it's not a joke.
Well, it's not a joke to that person. I
Okay,
can
I get
say
it. It's not a
one
joke.
time
I get it.
I told a joke one time
Uh-huh.
at work, and it ruined all of my work relationships. And what's worse about it is I didn't know that until years later. Like I didn't know that it was the joke.
But it wasn't that it wasn't a joke. It just wasn't a joke to them because they didn't have the same sense of humor that you had.
Yeah, they took it a different way. Like I was joking with one person in the office whom everybody respected, and I
Mhm.
really respected. We spent a lot of time together, and so it was kind of like it was personal. It wasn't personal at her expense in that sense, like I was making fun of her, or at least that wasn't the intent. But it came out like mocking, a
Mhm.
little bit. But to me, it was supposed to be like it was funny because me and her had joked about it before, but nobody else in the office saw it that way, and it just like after that they treated me different, and in my mind I never connected it to that moment until later on somebody mentioned it, and I was like, holy shit, that's why everybody was treating me like shit.
So that's why everybody was treating you like that?
I thought I was too cocky in the workplace, and thought that that was, that's what people were reacting to, or something like that. But the learning experience, that was probably, I guess, that was what, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. Like, I'm not that person anymore, for sure.
Okay, cool. I want to apologize for difficulties to anybody who's listening to this. We've been having a lot of technical difficulties going back with the audio. I don't know what it is, man. Is it my microphone or your microphone or what?
I think it's a mixture of both.
A mixture of both. So
Yeah.
we're recording this through Google Hangouts, and this isn't a Google or anything. I love Google, but I don't know what it is, man. What we're doing, like, I'm having to reset my microphone on my laptop through Google Hangouts, and Matt's having to actually unplug his microphone from his computer so that we can keep recording. So we'll try to go back and edit it a little bit so make it concise and clear. But that's what's going on. If you hear anything weird, it's just the technical difficulties through Google Hangouts.
Yeah. So apologize for that. But, going back to kind of hip hop and tying what we were just talking about. How do you feel? And I know this is kind of like an old school question, but how do you feel about the use of the N-word in hip hop? Like,
how do I feel about the N-word?
Yeah, I would honestly say that, especially in like a mainstream hip hop, it's a little bit less prevalent than it used to be.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's less prevalent than what it used to be in mainstream hip hop.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with guys saying it's real. In hip hop, a lot of people forget that hip hop. To understand hip hop, to realize where hip hop came from. Nothing that's created, especially in art or anything, nothing that's created strays too far. You know what I mean? People forget that hip hop was created by black kids and Puerto Rican kids in the projects in New York City. You know what I mean? That's the foundation of it. That's the origin of it. And anybody, I think, who's even somewhat familiar with the way that black people talk and people of color talk in ghettos, that's how we talk. That's how they talk. So if you have this art form that's created from that type of environment, how else do you expect it to sound? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree personally. I think definitely in terms of using either the M-word or whatever language they use, it does have to be like real to that artist. Like it wouldn't make sense if Macklemore put out a new album and he was all of a sudden like, nigga this, nigga that. You know what I mean? Like, that would be like, wait, what? What was that? You're rapping from Portland, Oregon? Is that,
I mean, if he's using it, he's white, but if he threw the N-word in there, nigger. If he said nigger, I don't say the N-word. If he said nigger, and he was using it, I mean, he's staying true to the art form because he's doing hip hop, and that's how the people who created hip, that's where it comes from. That's the fabric of hip hop. So I wouldn't have a problem with Macklemore saying the word nigger in his music if he wanted to say it.
So
it's about the context. If he was using it in a good context, I wouldn't have a problem saying it.
So if he did say like a cover of a Trinidad James song or something, you wouldn't have any problem with that?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't. But let's talk about what's going on currently. You know about the riots in Ferguson and whatnot?
Yeah. How do I feel about it?
Yeah, how do you feel about everything in Missouri?
I think that the riots are perhaps a little unwarranted. But I mean, I feel like police shootings and whatnot like that is an interesting conversation, and I think part of that comes from, first of all, it brings up race relations again. Um, Second of all, it brings up police brutality. Like, it's and that's always been something in there as well. And then I think for certain people, it also brings up the fact that I'm trying to think of a way to say this. It how police on black crimes are are a focus because of race relationships, but
Mhm.
when police guys shoot and kill white people, that's not really in focus either. If that makes sense.
Right. I feel what you're saying. Like I feel like to some extent, had Michael Brown been white and the cop been white as well, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. It'd be a deal. It wouldn't be as big of a deal. Had the victim and the policeman been white.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of stuff tied to it, and that's probably why it's. I mean, the riots didn't help, but I think that's part of what really put it in to national focus, like it has. Um,
But how do we solve the race problem, man? Because it seems like, man, a lot of times I was gonna say the South, but just in this country, man, in America in general, man, whenever we go through anything, whether it's emotionally, politically, or socially, or financially, it always comes back to race. To some degree or another, it always comes back to race. And for those of you who can't see us, who are listening to this, I'm black, Matt's white, we're
yep.
friends. I mean, why can't we just get over the racial hump in general in this country? What do you think the problem is?
I think it's a catch-22. Okay, like because it seems like the two obvious ways to get around it are one to either just ignore race, just like let race fall into the ether, treat everybody like each other. You're just another person. Um, but the catch is a lot of white people do that, and we get in trouble by some of the black powers that be for ignoring race, for ignoring culture, for like, oh, that's white privilege to be able to not pay attention to race.
You said the black powers that be. When you said black powers that be, like I mentioned, like a lot of like upper level like black people like suits like a League of Nations or like a league like of black
Yeah,
people like Jesse Jackson and Al
yeah,
Sharpton.
yeah.
Like,
That's who I'm saying. Now I want you to note
the
that,
Justice League, the Black Justice League.
I wasn't talking about President Obama, who is also a black man who also happens to hold the most powerful office in the United States. I'm
Right.
just talking about specifically powerful people,
The Black Justice
who,
League.
yeah, who identify as black and deal primarily with black rights. But then the flip side to it is, keeping race alive, continuing to talk about it. My thing is I feel like it's catch-22 because one way you're creating an us and a them, which means that there can be an us versus them, and the
Hmm.
other way is tough because I mean skin colors are different.
You said skin colors are different.
Well, I think a lot of we grow up in communities with people who look just like us, and so there is a little bit of difference there. The but and then I think the other thing that's tied to race is that our country, first of all, is not very old,
Right.
um, and a good chunk of our history had to do with the enslavement of other cultures and other people, most notably black people. But like I think what a lot of people don't consider as well is that um, the white majority wasn't as much of a thing. Like you think I probably wouldn't have been considered white having an Irish Scottish descent until like the what 20s or 40s, 1920s or 40s.
Right.
I mean, Italians and Jews and things like that weren't considered white
Yeah.
for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
Uh,
because everybody assimilates, and we in America we live in a very assimilated culture, and
yeah,
with race, with a thing like race, it's skin color, it's visual, it's physical. You can't
yeah,
really ignore what you see. Uh,
right.
but I think we have to control like what we teach each other and what we talk about. I think it
Right.
starts with conversation, open, honest communication, man, about race and about differences.
No, I agree. I think the thing is it's important for people um, to be able to speak about it freely, but not. I think I would say not make a huge deal about it, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Like being able to talk about it casually and address any particular issues that come up. That I think that's important. Like I've had the race discussion with several of my black friends, because uh, as a white person you don't necessarily understand the experiences of a black person, right? And I
Right.
think for one of the difficulties for myself was that, like, if I'd been middle class or something and grew up, in like a white suburb and just been like, hey, I the knowing that there's a difference between like the black experience and the white uh, experience dichotomy would be a little bit different. But because I grew up poor, because I grew up around drugs and violence and things like that, growing up hearing, rap songs about the ghetto and stuff didn't sound too far removed from my experience. I can't say that I grew up in the ghetto, but I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with a lot of those same things happening. I mean, houses that I played in when I was a kid blew up because people were cooking meth. You
Right.
know, people were getting jumped. We had gangs and things like, and but they weren't as prominent or as necessary as in the hood. But those things existed where I grew up,
Where'd you grow up?
and I grew up kind of on the outer edge of Mableville, Arkansas, and East End. So, like if you were to think of it as a Venn diagram, I would be in that center plate, that center piece. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
um,
Like if I had a picture of the state of Arkansas in the United States of America, we have Arkansas. Little Rock is pretty much smack dab in the middle, in the direct
yeah,
center of Arkansas.
yeah,
And so your hometown would be in relation to Little Rock. It would be
south. It'd
south.
be, yeah. You're just a 30-minute drive, give or take, from pretty much anywhere in Little Rock from
And
where I'm at.
what was it like growing up?
For me,
Yeah.
um, it was different at different points. When I was younger, like the area I grew up in, uh, it was weird because it's hard to describe the particular area because I grew up in a community that it was kind of like a trailer park, but it wasn't a trailer park in the sense that most people think of it, where like trailer parks are parked within 20 feet, or trailers are parked within 20, 30, 40 feet from each other, just
Right.
kind of in a straight line. Um, but it was like there's a lot of nature around, and there was space between the houses. But the only thing for you to do, because there wasn't like stores or anything, was run the streets. And
Okay.
then and because it was mostly trailers and stuff, it was mostly like poor people and poor kids, and we did exactly what poor people did. We ran streets, we talked crap, we got into fights with each other and things like that.
I know recently you got into stand-up comedy. How much of your background growing up in that small town, the trailer park in Arkansas, how much do you put that life experience into your comedy, into your jokes, if at
All
all?
of it. Like my jokes are all pretty well just stories, things that have happened to me. Like some of them are like completely, this is exactly what happened. Like there's no bullshit in there. And then some of it I've been the truth slightly to add, for comedic effect.
Right.
Um,
What gives you the guts, man? I've always wondered what gives somebody the guts, the courage to say, I'm funny, and I'm funny enough to be on stage by a room full of strangers laugh. What does it take to actually form that thought and actually go through with something like that?
First of all, you can't think of it like that. Like I'm not saying you can't think of it like that, but I mean like when you go to perform or something, you can't think of it like that because that's too scary. You know, I think what it is like for most people, it's can you do you make people laugh? Do people laugh a lot when you're around them? And I feel like that's a pretty good gauge of whether you at least have the ability to be funny.
Do you think
You
you're
know,
funny?
I mean, I hope I'm funny. I think I'm funny, probably. That's hard because I feel like I'm cocky. I feel like it's a cocky yes if I say yes. But I think I'm a funny person. Um, do I think I have room to grow on stage? Yeah. I mean, I, I think that you can be funny like talking with people, kind of having conversation and just like throwing out like puns or even kind of improv kind of conversations where you're just pull shit out of your ass and you're just like, and it makes it work when you're with close people. But stand up is basically performance art.
What do
Um,
you think about the stand-up comedy scene in Arkansas?
uh, I think it's interesting. I mean, can you imagine stand up comedy in a poor state that's conservative or at least traditionally conservative? I mean,
I could imagine a lot of material coming from that.
yeah, yeah. But the flip to that is comedy also has to be relatable,
Right.
right? Like if I'm in New York, um, or something doing comedy, I can't really do a joke about burning trash because people's heads are too like wrapped up about burning trash. Like, who burns trash? What the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Like, it's not relatable. Like, your premise has to be relatable and human, and then the rest of it has to work from there. Like, if I have to sit there and explain to you why we burn trash,
Then
then
it's lost. The joke is lost.
yeah, it means I have to spend way too much time.
Right.
One of the things that
I want, I
I've
want, I want, I want to make a comment about the burning trash. Uh, I grew up in West Memphis, Arkansas, right across the bridge from Memphis, Tennessee, in the northeast corner of Arkansas.
yeah
And we didn't burn trash. That's a very like more of a country thing to do is to burn trash. I
yeah
was driving from West Memphis to Dallas, Texas, and to get from Memphis to Dallas, you have to drive pretty much through Arkansas. Arkansas. And
yeah.
I stopped in Little Rock for gas, and I turned on the radio, and the DJ on this radio station uh, put out an advisory to the listeners about not burning trash. He said something like, "I just want to let y'all know that it's gonna be a no trash burning tonight. So whatever you do tonight, y'all don't burn your trash tonight. We got coming on in the air, no trash burning. Let y'all know. Oh, and what's up? You tuned in to Power 106, da 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 da." And he just went on into his spiel with the DJ show, and I was like, hold up, don't burn trash. He actually had during his show and put an announcement out to the public to not burn trash, and that was just like culture shock to me. That was so
Did,
crazy. So I can understand like how
did you
you would
find out
try to.
why?
There was some kind of conditions going on in the air, something environmentally, where there was
Yeah, it
like
was
a
just
mandate from the local government not to burn trash that day or that weekend.
yeah, it was probably just like it was just probably like it was too dry, like a burn warning. Like here in the South, I don't know if you have this problem in West Memphis, but like, and I haven't really seen it too much in Jonesboro, but like Central Arkansas and lower, definitely you get burn warnings where it gets too dry outside, so you're not allowed to burn anything, so you don't actually catch the woods or something like that on the fire, so you don't have brush fires and things like that.
Just the idea of like taking your trash out to your back door and dumping it like in your backyard and burning it, like that's so like
Wait. You
remote.
don't just like open the trash bag and just dump it out. Like when you burn trash, most of the time you either have like a burning pit or a barrel, and you just burn your trash in it. And the
Oh,
reason is because you don't. A lot of places are isolated and don't
uh,
have like trash pickup. Like
uh.
there's no way to dispose of your trash short of burning it.
See, I didn't even know imagine like living somewhere where I couldn't get my trash picked up. I could never
Right.
imagine living somewhere. See, that goes to show like we grew up in different parts of Arkansas. Like the part you grew up in Arkansas, the central Arkansas part, the Little Rock part was more rural. Well, I think where I grew up close to Memphis was maybe a little more urban.
Yeah, and like I said, it was kind of weird because like I technically grew up or I lived in all different places in central Arkansas. Like I've lived on and next to farms. But when I say I grew up, my mom lived where I described earlier. But my parents got a divorce when I was young, and my dad had grew up on farms. So when he'd live with like a family member or finally got his own place, that's exactly what he did. He moved to a place that he grew up with. And so that's where my main experience with burning trash was like with my mom and stuff. We had trash pickup and things like that.
Yeah.
It was really rare. The only thing that we had to do was like we had to worry about where my mom lived was if you had a burn ban, but you also had to like get rid of like burn leaves or something like that if you're doing like yard work or something like that.
Hmm.
Also, it'd be like, hey, we have a burn ban, so meth heads, just tune it down a little bit. Like if you could just not blow up your house cooking meth in
Don't
the,
burn
in
up
the
your house this
vicinity.
weekend. It's a burn ban. Don't cook too much meth this weekend that you blow up a house this weekend. Wait till next weekend.
Right, like we can't stop you from cooking meth. I mean, we could raid your house if we had a warrant, but we can't like make everybody stop because there's places we don't even know about. So like, if you could just not cook meth right now until we can get out of this slump.
And that's something that's understood.
I don't think it really was. I don't think anybody who's really cooking meth is being like, oh guys, there's a burn ban, we can't cook right now. No, I don't think anybody ever did that.
But that's part of your background though. Like you grew up around. I don't know if you knew them personally, but you grew up with the knowledge that there were people in your community who were cooking meth, who were actually doing that in your
Oh
neighborhood,
yeah.
right? And see, like where I grew up, like I knew about crack. I knew crackheads. I knew people that sold crack. I knew people that smoked crack. I knew people that danced in the middle of the street for crack. Like, I never knew of where I grew up having a big meth problem.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
and it's kind of similar. Like the behavior and all that stuff is really similar. Like meth heads also have like they get lesions and shit like that.
Uh,
Like crackheads can get. Like
yeah.
like you know like. And I'm sure you can spot a crackhead from a mile away. I can
Oh
spot a
yeah,
meth head from a mile away.
I know a crackhead. When I was a
Oh
kid,
yeah.
I know a crackhead.
I I had a job at this facility where they had teachers. Like it was a live-in facility for kids.
Uh,
I can't say the place's name um, for this purpose, but uh, it was a mental health facility, and so these kids were living there. I walked in during training and met one of the teachers. 5 seconds looking at the teacher, I was like, this teacher's a meth head. Like, there's not a single doubt in my mind. I told my boss, and he goes, how do you know? I said, I grew up around meth heads. I know what meth head looks like.
it's
Like,
something you
she
know.
she clearly hadn't been doing meth long enough that it was like she was getting like her teeth weren't quite jacked up yet, and she wasn't having like the physical qualities of it yet.
Mhm.
But the way she would move, the way like her mannerisms were very methy.
Right? He said she was very methy.
See, that's when you
But
know you're funny when the person said he says, and then you repeat the funny part.
right. But see, that's something you know though, and you wouldn't have been a product of their environment, man. It's really interesting to me how the environments that we grow up in shape, how we look at the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I had like it was one of those things when you're young, until somebody points it out to you, you don't know. Like it's a kind of a normal part of your environment. And then when you either get old enough and somebody tells you, or you learn, through other means, whether it's like TV, movies, or whatever, or personal experience, then you notice it, and it's like it pulls the veil away from you, and you're like, holy shit! That
Right.
person I spent a lot of time with was on meth. And that becomes the picture in your head. You're like, okay, one of my aunts
Uh-huh.
or aunts was a meth head for my entire life.
Okay.
I hope I know she cleaned up at least one point, and I hope she's still clean because meth is a hell of a drug, just like crack. And and I remember one time she came to pick up me and my cousin, all right, and we were riding somewhere, and we were in like it was like a truck the size of an F-150, so we were really close. And he and I were just like sitting next to each other, like, just really still, like you would in any vehicle. You're just riding, you're just sitting. And she's moving. She's doing the meth move, like the meth dance, if it was, just always moving. And she had the gall to be like, "You guys got to stop moving."
And she was
And
moving.
she was moving. We were just sitting there like super still, like, what the fuck are you talking about? And this whole time she's like rocking back and forth, messing with the gear shift,
She was,
doing all sorts of shit.
she was so high, she was so out of it, that she was moving, but she thought you guys were moving and she was being still.
I don't know if she thought that we were moving. I think maybe that the fact that we weren't moving, and all that, and that she was so high, she either did think we were moving or she was self-conscious of it because she was with two kids. And you
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
like I would hope it's the latter and not the former,
Yeah.
but it very well may have been the former.
So how much longer was that car ride?
Dude, I don't know. When you're a kid, like no matter where you're going, if it's like longer than like 20 minutes, it feels like you've spent your whole day in the car. I think the actual ride was maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay. So
So it's
we met Jonesboro, Arkansas, at
yeah,
Arkansas State University back in 2005, man. And you graduated with your bachelor's degree, right?
yeah, in
What did you
2009.
what did you major in?
Philosophy. Like I started off with graphic design, and then I shifted to philosophy.
Okay, and from there you went on to teach at Arkansas State, and you earned your master's degree from Arkansas State. And what did you get your master's in?
Sociology.
All right. So you have two liberal arts degrees.
Yeah.
Uh, one you about is the worth of a college degree. I've been seeing a lot of debate, magazines and online and on TV about the worth of a college degree, man. Do you think that a college degree is still practical? You think it's still important to somebody who wants to progress?
I think it depends mainly what you want to do with your life. Like if you don't see yourself doing anything like professionally,
Hmm.
yeah, like you don't see yourself as a suit or something like that, and you don't want to be a teacher, anything that would require it. No, no. If you want to work, like you can get into a trade without having to go to college per se. Like if you're interested in doing like electrician work or something, there's no need for you to go to college for that. I mean, other than the school that you have to do, through them. You know what I mean? Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not writing that off as not college. They're doing is just as hard as anything anybody else is doing in college, probably. And I know they also get credit and things like that through the union, I believe. But you consider that like a trade school kind of thing.
If a kid is listening to this right now and they're already in the middle of going to college or new freshman, it's August, so a lot of kids are going to school for the first time. A lot of kids are going back to school, and they're really kind of undecided as to what they want to major in college, and they're thinking about maybe doing something more practical like mathematics or business or accounting or engineering. And on the other side, they're thinking language arts or English or political science like I did, or sociology or psychology. What advice would you give to that student?
Um, First of all, I would always tell them to go with what they enjoy. Um, for two reasons. One, if you go with something that you really enjoy and that you're good at, it's going to make your college career easier, right?
Right.
So it's going to make it more interesting. But secondly, by doing something that you enjoy and whatnot, when you actually graduate from college, you're going to want to get into that field more, or you're going to be willing to do more in college that's going to help propel you into work. I mean, I've seen so many people who have gone through college who were doing majors they didn't like, who either dropped out because they couldn't stand it and it colored the whole college experience negative, or they did graduate but didn't get a job in that field because they hated the field by the time they graduated.
But what about the kid like who's focused on just getting a job and making money?
Um, I would say that there's ways to do that. Like you could get to intro level jobs and make money like that until you've got enough experience to get a manager position somewhere, or get into a factory. I mean, here in Arkansas, there's some factories that you can make 60,000 a year at working in. It's a lot of hard ass work, but if you just want money, that's a way you can go.
What philosophy major, and he wants to use his philosophy degree, and he moves back to his hometown and whatnot, and he wants to get a job. He wants to get a practical job using his philosophy degree, and he wants to make good money doing that. And what would you suggest?
To not move back home and get a practical job that he would be required to have a philosophy degree with.
Stay in academia?
What I would say is philosophy, yeah, it's an academic thing. Like, it's hard to explain to people what you do, but the core of philosophy is teaching you logic. Logic and practical reasoning. So some practical jobs that you could use it would be like maybe an advertisement if you have that kind of mind, you know, or anything that requires you to be able, where you would need to use logic and practical reasoning and be able to examine kind of statistics if you had that kind of thing in there. But really for like philosophy, the main area that you're going to use that is just in academia, writing about philosophy, or teaching philosophy. Like that's pretty much it. And that's what I would also tell a kid. And I have a younger nephew that I talk to about college and things. And the main thing I want people to think about going into school is, what do you like? What do you want to do? And can you do that with what you like? And I know that sounds confusing, but I mean, if you had 3 choices of majors, things that you enjoyed doing, and they were tiered by the most enjoyment you got out of them in college, if the top 2 choices were things that weren't practical, that you didn't see yourself doing, then you shouldn't do them.
All right. I noticed too, Matt. I was taking a look at your Facebook page, and I noticed you have a lot of updates on your weight loss and weight gain and dieting and nutrition and things like that. How much did you weigh at your heaviest?
Oh, like my heaviest period, probably closer to 500, definitely around like 475.
And how much have you lost?
This go around, I am down to 396.
How'd you do it?
I utilized a lot of that meth knowledge. No, just mainly I started to try to cut down on what I was eating. I used meal replacement shakes to help kind of shrink my stomach, and then I got into lifting weights.
Okay, sounds good, man. You like lifting weights?
I do. The thing is like lifting weights for me is kind of a newer thing that I've gotten into within the past like 6 to 8 months. I guess since February, so whatever month it is now, August, since February. The one thing that I like about it is, lifting weights will help you lose weight and it'll help you keep it off as long as you kind of keep doing it. But it also kind of gives you always something to aspire to. I was talking to a guy. I was like, hey, when I got under 400 pounds, I was really excited. He goes, what are you trying to get down to? I was like, ideally, like 250. He's like, well, what's your goals? I was like, I don't know, to be able to lift 315 next. And he's like, no, I mean losing weight. And my thing is like I've been morbidly obese my whole life. So I have to really plan for the rest of my life to always be exercising or to be doing something with fitness in mind, even if it's just kind of secondary to what I'm doing. So for me, I like to think about it more as with lifting weights, you can always kind of go up, you know, and
Okay.
so you're always chasing after something. But by losing weight, you're going to get to somewhere, and that's kind of where you're at. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, I got down to this weight, so I no longer have to do that, or I don't have to try as hard at it anymore. And you can yo-yo back or whatever, but you've reached that goal, and it's hard to keep thinking about that goal. But for me, with lifting weights, I can always think about going higher, and as long as I do this and cut and kind of do these other side things to lose weight, then I'm going to get to that weight loss goal, but I'm still goal-oriented in terms of moving up and, you know, lifting weights, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right, man. Now we're gonna get into some games, man. I want to ask you some questions, man, so people can really get to know how your mind works, your methy, comedic mind.
All right.
We'll jump into a new part of the show. But first, man, I want to remind anybody who's listening, if you just tuned in, that you're listening to the JayBo Show, and you can find me on Twitter at Beale Street Blue, BealeSt Blue, at twitter.com. And today's show, as always, is brought to you by Let Leslie Shine, handmade jewelry for women and girls. You can find Let Leslie Shine on Twitter and on Instagram, and you can email letlesleyshine@gmail.com for details and prices. Now, Matt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new part of our show,
All right.
and it's called Somebody Please Call Jai. Now, this segment of the show called Somebody Please Call Jai is the section of the show where I take time to update you guys on the recent activity of early 2000s deaf artist and hip-hop superstar Ja Rule. So I found online, and I'll educate you guys about Ja Rule and his recent activities. According to an article for allhiphop.com written by Keith Nelson Jr., Ja Rule is recounting the rapper and actor 50 Cent with a baseball bat. In response, 50 Cent said that the Ja Rule incident is, quote, so old it doesn't make sense to talk about it. I thought the book was about your life. I guess I'm your mother, end quote. Ja Rule's story is in his recently published book, Unruly, The Highs and Lows of Being a Man. And that is this JayBo Show's Somebody Please Call Jai.
So,
Matt.
Okay, so when you first started that, I thought for sure you were going to talk about the recent Suge Knight shooting.
No, that doesn't have anything to do with this. Is about Ja Rule. We don't at the JayBo Show. We don't care about Suge Knight. We care about Ja Rule, baby. We are Ja Rule fanatics. And I want to right quick. If you're really JayBo Show listeners,
Okay.
if you're really good, we may be getting a cameo from the actual Ja Rule on the JayBo Show. I'm saying it right now. Mark the date, mark the time. If you're good, if you listen to my show, on the next episode, quite possibly, there may be a cameo of Def Jam artist, early 2000s hip-hop superstar Ja Rule on the JayBo Show. Because we love Ja Rule on the JayBo Show.
Now you got to include me in that show if you have Ja Rule on there, because I have some questions for him.
You have some questions for Ja Rule?
I mean,
Ja Rule's gonna be here.
how are you gonna lie to those people? Yeah.
What? Ja Rule's gonna be here, man.
For real, you got Ja Rule.
Ja Texas, baby, and he's gonna be here.
Did you Did you say, hey, I got 50 Cent that's going to be on the show, and he said if you come on the show,
Oh, that would be awesome. If I could get 50 Cent and Ja Rule here at the same time, dude, I would put that on pay-per-view. That wouldn't even be free. That would be like pay-per-view, like for real. Like I would be like Don King overnight.
their beef is so stupid. Like
Yes,
realistically, nobody gives a shit about either of them.
either
Like
one.
like you. I can understand if you're picking a beef with somebody who was big, but when Ja Rule and 50's like beef became like a known thing, it was already after 50 was kind of a has been. Like 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 it never made sense to me. Like I don't give a shit. Like fucking I don't care. Like
Well,
50,
man, I
50
do.
Cent like
I do.
50
Okay.
Cent to me was always felt like he was going to be kind of like a I don't know. I hated listening to him talk. You know what I mean? He sounded and no like offense to anybody, but he sounded a little slow. So listening to him talk sounded like it didn't equate in my head to somebody who was like a real like thug.
Yeah.
It sounded like he was just like, "Hey man, I got shot." It'd be like, "Man, anybody can get shot if there's a gun pointed at them. You don't have to do." But like you got shot and that's how you got big. But your breakout song was "In the Club," so
Right.
like walk away, homie.
Walk away. That's what you would tell 50 Cent if you saw him in person. Walk away, homie.
I don't know. I think if I saw him in person, I'd probably be like, "Oh shit, it's 50 Cent. I'm gonna talk to 50 Cent," and then I'd probably just like talk to 50 Cent. Like I'm not gonna front. I'm not gonna be like, if I saw 50 Cent, I'd walk up and be like, "What's up, homie? You a buster?" Like no, I'd be like, "Hey man, good job on making vitamin water and then selling it. That made you buku money. Like you've made more money off of everything else besides your music."
I bet he's made more money than Ja Rule.
Like, definitely. Did you see the? Do you remember? Or did you hear about when they made that bet about because they had the albums coming out at a similar time, and he's like, 50's like, "Hey man, if you outsell me, then I'm gonna quit hip hop forever."
That was him and Kanye West.
Was it? I thought it was Ja Rule.
I thought it was Kanye. Maybe
I
he
thought
did
it
a
was Ja
thing like that.
Rule.
Maybe he did a thing like that with Ja Rule too. But I remember he did something like that with Kanye West. Like they had the album come out on the same day, like back in 2007.
How did 50 Cent think he was gonna beat Kanye? I mean, I guess that's me thinking about it like in today's Kanye, but
At that point, Kanye was like the man.
yeah,
Like after 2005, like 50 Cent hasn't really been about rap
right.
music since like '05.
No, I agree.
We're gonna move on to the next part of the show, Matt. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. And you just tell me
Let me say something real quick.
what's up. Go,
Not a fan of Kanye West.
ladies and gentlemen. Matthew Coulter is not a fan of Kanye West.
Let me also say I like Kanye when he's on other people's tracks, but I don't like him as like an artist on his own stuff.
He likes Kanye when he's a featured artist. Not when he's on to the next part of the show. I know you better. Rick James or Prince?
Prince.
Really?
I love Prince, man. I know probably most of the lyrics, if not all of them, to "When Doves Cry." All right, Prince is my shit.
I would love to get you back on the JayBo show and let you do an a cappella version of When Doves Cry.
He by the way is an amazing guitarist too.
He is. He's awesome. He plays everything.
Yeah, like people don't know that Prince is like a world class guitarist.
He is.
Yes.
Matt, who was your first kiss?
Oh man, that's tough.
You've had that many?
Yeah. Like some you're not willing to admit to, and some you're like, yeah, I'll claim that one.
What's the first one you can remember that you want to admit to?
When I was maybe too young to, my babysitter.
Okay, how old were you?
I don't know, maybe 3.
You remember that?
I think I remember that.
How
Like
old
you
was
know how you have those young things like you're like I think this was a real thing or maybe I imagined that.
how old was the babysitter?
I don't know. I was 3.
What's funnier, man? It's breakdancing or a group of babies smoking cigarettes.
Cops break dancing. Like baby smoking's not funny. You're just like, hey baby, stop smoking. That's gonna ruin your life. But a cop breaks dancing, that's like, hey man, get it, dude.
Batman or Super?
Batman.
What's the worst thing to say to a man in the heat of passion?
Hey man, we're currently in the heat of passion.
Now, for the last part of the show, fill in the blank. I was blank in high school.
Uh, nerdy and quiet.
Blank is the best movie of all time.
Oh man. I think my go-to answer is Seven Samurai.
Blank keeps me
Yeah.
up at night.
Uh, my fear of death.
One thing you don't know about me is
I don't know. I'm pretty open about most of my life. I'm gonna go with that I'm secretly a Chihuahua.
my name is Matthew Coulter, and I'm a fill in the blank.
Oh, like you said that, and I didn't. I thought you cut out. I didn't actually. I was like, oh God, his audio's gone.
No, I didn't cut out that time. I've been cutting out a lot, but not that time.
Okay, say it again then.
My name is Matthew Coulter, and I'm a
White male.
Matthew Coulter, ladies and gentlemen, on the JayBo Show. Matt, you got any shout outs, any comments you want to make?
Uh, yeah, if you like talking to me or listening to me, be sure to hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Team Asunder. Um, and if you want to see me perform, or if you're interested in any of Arkansas's finest comedians, be sure to like NEA Comedians. That's NEA Comedians on Facebook.
I want to send a shout out too, Matt. Shout out to my boy Shaquan Bivens. Shaquan Bivens of Dallas. He let me borrow one of his songs called Free Time. I'm gonna play it at the end of this podcast. Shout out to Shaquan, man. I think the song I put up a link to his life EP on the page for this episode. I'm gonna play that episode of this show next. So y'all stay tuned and listen to Shaquan Bivens' song Free Time. It's bumping. And we out, Matt.